Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from theresistanceradio.com. The Resistance. Viva la Resistance. Take and fight the man, if you will, I guess, or at least the man that's in the White House right now. We certainly appreciate you guys tuning into the podcast. This will be going out on several different platforms if you hear them on our other podcasts as well. You can see all 9 of those at thecvpn.com. Chris Voss Podcast Network.com. You can go there and subscribe to all 9 podcasts and learn so much stuff. There's over 500 podcasts there. So if you're stuck inside, you're quarantining, or if you're just avoiding, I don't know, people knocking at your door that want money, you can take it, go listen to the podcast. What a horrible thing to say. Anyway, maybe you're just avoiding people that you don't want to see. So what a great way to do that. Listen to the Chris Voss Show. And then you also have an excuse. People are like, hey, you didn't hear me knocking. You're like, I had earphones on. I was listening to Chris. Anyway, guys, we certainly appreciate you guys being here today. As you know, the resistanceradio.com, we're bringing on a lot of politicians that are running for office in November 2020. These are going to be some of the most important people that we're going to elect from the federal level down to your local level, because with COVID-19, the fallout, the economic disintegration, the healthcare, we are going to need these local leaders more than ever, which means it's all the more important for you to look at that ballot and make good choices, because we're in life and death issues when it comes down to right now. Today we have a wonderful guest on the show. It's Mary DaSilva, and Mary is she's grown up in Cache Valley. She's also lived in Texas, Australia, Mexico. She's married to a Brazilian and spent a lot of time with his family there. So she's been all over the world. She was born in Logan and raised in River Heights, attended local public schools, including Skyview High School. She met and married her husband while attending Utah State University. She graduated from Weber State College nursing program to become a registered nurse. Boy, we sure need people like her these days. And she devoted most of her life to public service. She worked for the Austin Travis County Health Department in disease surveillance, investigating reports of communicable disease, contact tracing, and making recommendations to prevent spread and contain outbreaks. Boy, it's like people we need in office right now with COVID. She worked at several levels of the community, from homeless to software engineers, and she was cooperative with all local governments, first responders such as fire, EMS, police, animal control, epidemiologists. Those guys are popular these days. Restaurant sanitation, and local jails. So she's been and seen it all, and probably the best person who's poised this. Welcome to the show, Mary.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
Awesome sauce. So you're representing the beautiful state of Utah and House.
Yes, Chris. I don't think you said I'm running for House District 4 for the Utah Legislature.
There you go.
That is the majority of the city of Logan.
Okay. And Logan, Utah, beautiful place up there. You've got the college, just a wonderful little city. We used to own companies, used to courier up in there, and I've been in Logan so many times. Just wonderful people and everything else. So you're running to represent those folks up there. And tell us a little bit about your origin story. I mean, let's get the .com for you so people can take a look you up, contribute, volunteer, all that good stuff.
Okay, sure. I have a website. It's DaSilva4Utah.org, and the name is DASILVA for FOR Utah.org. Or you can also follow me on Twitter at Mary for Utah HD4.
Awesome sauce. So give us a rundown of maybe a little more detailed origin story of how you got here and what made you want to run for office.
Okay, sure. So I was born in Logan. My father came here to work at Utah State University. He was the dean of the College of Natural Resources up at Utah State. And so we moved here, and I was born here and grew up here in Cache Valley. We did move away a couple of times for short times when my dad was on sabbatical and so on. But most of my life, I grew up here in Logan or Cache Valley. I was in the county schools and attended Utah State, like you said, and I ended up being a registered nurse and graduated from Weber State College. So after when we were graduating from school, the Logan Hospital was really small, and they did not have enough positions for all the registered nurses that were coming out of our program. So we had to actually leave to go somewhere else for me to find a job. And that's why we ended up in Texas. But I've come back in the last few years to be with my parents as they're getting older. And I really love Cache Valley. I missed Utah so much while I was away, you know, the 4 seasons we have and the beauty. And it's just a great place to live. So we're really happy to be back.
We're glad to have you. We definitely need more people who know what's going on. It's kind of interesting. You have this background. Now we're seeing this COVID-19 crisis that's before us, and that's just right in your wheelhouse.
Right. And I am retired now, but I did spend most of my career doing the disease surveillance, which most people don't even know, but there are maybe close to 100 reportable diseases that whenever it's found out in the community, they have to report it to the health department. And so my job was to investigate and confirm, and then when we found outbreaks, to actually write I helped write the recommendations. They would come from the health authority, which was the doctor, but he would ask us, you know, what's going on and who's involved, and we would collect the information and write the recommendations, and then go to the business or the school or the restaurant or wherever to make recommendations and help people get through it. So I'm pretty familiar with the basics of disease containment, and all of this can be perfectly transitioned into the COVID as we're learning more about COVID. You know, if we have a big outbreak in a meat packing plant or a factory, I mean, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. These are things that are known how to do. And I would be glad to help guide the legislature to figure out how to make rules regarding these things. I also worked in direct care. I worked in the tuberculosis clinic, and I've also taken care of people in the STD, or the sexually transmitted disease clinic, and the HIV clinic. So I've done a lot of direct care with communicable diseases as well. So when we moved back to Utah, and we had the election in 2018, one of the things that the Utahns were passing was the propositions for Propositions 2 and 3. And Proposition 3 was to increase access to Medicaid to up to 130% of poverty level. And the first thing that the legislature did here in Utah was they decided that that was not okay with them, and they decided to overturn the election and rewrite what the people had voted for, and actually decrease the amount of people who were eligible for Medicaid. So as you know, now Utah, we have funding for up to 100% of poverty, but there's a lot of people who are left out. And that was really one of the main things that motivated me to run for office. Was I did not like the fact that the legislature was telling people that we needed fewer people with access to health care rather than more.
And we've seen some interesting things about that have been quite disturbing. Recently, we saw that they didn't accept like $50 million or something like that in healthcare or in food for children in a schooling program for the federal government. It's just crazy, some of the things that go on in the state. I know that Utah is 50th in the nation when it comes to education quality, I guess. And so there's a lot of change that needs to happen. So what do you see? What made you want to? So you saw these things and you said, "Hey, I want to go change government. I want to run for office and make changes."
Yes, it did upset me that the legislatures were limiting health care, but when you look at the people who are in government right now, we do have a lot of businessmen, we have lawyers, we have real estate developers and that sort of thing. And I think we need people who have more of a science and a medical background to help understand things and to make, especially now, the world is changing so fast, and they end up making decisions that are really not in the best interest of people. If you remember back in March, and early April, the legislature actually was trying to spend $800,000 of public health money to buy hydroxychloroquine. And right, and it was on the recommendation of the president of the Senate. His name is Stuart Adams, and he is a real estate developer. And he got together with the private for-profit pharmacy named Med in Motion, and they were going to go ahead and purchase with our public health dollars hydroxychloroquine, which is a medication that is not proven to have any effect on COVID-19. And in fact, it has a lot of warnings that it has a lot of side effects like heart issues and different things. And luckily, they have pulled that. There was an outcry from the public health and from the doctors and cardiologists in the state of Utah that said this is not a wise use of our public health money. And so they pulled that, and that's good. But it made me realize that maybe we don't need so many real estate developers in office right now. I mean, we need some, but not all of them. We do need some people who have some understanding of this. And I would like to make laws that will, for us to get through this pandemic. I want to help guide us through this pandemic and come out on the other side stronger. And we need certain things, like we need to strengthen health departments, and we need to have more of these contact tracers, like we were talking about, people who can help find the sick people and help contain outbreaks and help keep everybody healthy and increase the access to health care. The first person in Utah to get COVID-19 that was not traced to travel out, to a foreign country or somewhere, was a working adult who was not insured. And that was up in Park City. And he was the very first person to get community-acquired COVID here. So we need to increase access to health care and increase Medicaid coverage. We also need to increase just basic public health, things like immunizations. When we have the winter come through and the flu season starts, it's going to be very difficult to try and figure out who has flu and who might have COVID. And we need to get as many people immunized with the basic things like the flu vaccine. I would also like to strengthen workplace safety standards. We need to have certified infection control nurses and practitioners in all of our major factories and jails, nursing homes, and hospitals. Hospitals do have infection control preventionists working there. Not all of them are certified, and certified means that they go through a special course and have to take a test to make sure that they are really high-level professionals. And we're having a lot of outbreaks in places like, if you look around the country as a whole, the largest hotspots of disease are in the jails, the prisons, and the meatpacking factories and nursing homes. And so we need to help people to really understand what they need to do to protect themselves, protect their clients, and to protect their workers. And we can do some simple things in the legislature, like encouraging people to go through the courses with the CDC and the infection control. There are organizations for professionals in infection control, and they have courses and get people certified so that they can take better care of their workers and their clients.
Most definitely. I mean, this is what I spoke about before. We need people that can understand science, bring science into the realm of the legislative body, because a lot of the solutions that we're going to be looking for are going to be science-based. And there's some people that think that this virus may, we'll just get like a inoculation and we'll be fine. There's some other scientists that are saying this could be with us forever, and it just could become a seasonal flu on a darker level, or maybe we find some way to mitigate it not to be quite as much, but it will still revisit us. There's a lot of unknowns that we don't know, and we're going to need people that are aware of science and everything else. I mean, what's really hurt us in this is the political craziness at the White House. The the non-embracement of the non-embracement, is that a word? Not embracing science has been the biggest killer. I mean, just thinking that this is scientists, they're just a little over too excited, and then suddenly we have 100,000 people dead.
Right.
So this is going to be real important. So it sounds like you got a lot of good plans for what you want to do in a legislative session and for Utah, and of course your area up there in Logan, and that's just going to be really important. And then there's going to be the economic fallout as well. I've talked that many times on the Chris Voss Show and the Resistance Radio podcast, where we're moving into where we're going to need more health care. One thing we're realizing, as you talked about, is we realize we got to take care of our neighbor's health as much as ours, because an infectious disease of this nature, whether it's COVID or the next one, can just ravage through our communities. And if they can't get health care, if they can't get prevention, they pass it to us. We all end up in the same boat. And I think more and more we have to realize that we are our neighbor's neighbor, and we've got to help support each other. Otherwise, we're all in the same toilet bowl.
Exactly. And like you said, with the economics, most people get their health insurance through their job. And so as people are losing their job, then that's just going to increase the number of people that do not have health insurance. And so we really do need to increase outreach to people so that they can learn how to apply for Medicaid if they're eligible for that, or for the ACA if they're eligible for that, if they can afford that. I forgot where I was going with that, but definitely it's really important.
One of the things that are important too is we had there's one Facebook group that we subscribe to, and it's important to me because two of my sisters are in care centers that are disabled. But there's the Utah Democratic group of disabled folks, and so they've asked me, and I've been asking every one of the candidates what you think is important for the disabled community to be represented well in your area, and interested in the legislative bodies for disabled people. I know there's been a lot of ADA issues with Utah.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, definitely. And I also have a grandbaby that was born with Down syndrome, which was a real surprise. You know, his mama was 32, his dad was 28. There was no clue that this was going to happen. It was just a random thing. And he's a wonderful little boy, really wonderful. He has benefited tremendously from people coming to the house, the occupational health, the speech therapists, and getting all kinds of early intervention. And I think that is absolutely critical for us to seek out and find children that are behind or developmentally delayed, and get them as much intervention as they can before school starts. And certainly to help in the schools, they need to be mainstreamed in and get specialized resources that they need, the counselors and vocational training to live their best life, you know, whether the disability is blindness or deafness or in a wheelchair or speech impediment or whatsoever. And then, you know, people that do need to end up living in group care, they need to have the very best caretakers that we can have. I really worry a lot of times when people go in for vocational placement and they say, oh, you have no education, no skills, no motivation. Well, you can take care of old people and children and disabled. I don't like that. They need to get people who are really high quality, dedicated people, and they need to pay their caretakers a living wage and good benefits, and make it a job that you know, that we can recruit our very best workers to work in the group homes and the nursing homes.
Most definitely, especially from what we're seeing now, where group homes were just destroyed, bombarded. I mean, my two sisters' care centers, they're doing really well at keeping COVID-19 away, but it's stalking right outside their doors, and all it takes is that one employee
Oh,
who
it's
decides
terrifying. It can go
yeah.
so quickly. And mental health issues, I mean, people with mental health problems really need support as well. We cannot neglect that. Unfortunately, our largest mental health provider in the United States is the county jails. You know, they have mainstreamed people out into the community, and if they can't keep up with their appointments or their medication, they lose track. That's where there's so many homeless people that really have very severe mental health issues, and we should be taking care of them. You know, our society is only as strong as our weakest link, and if we're, you know, it's just heartbreaking to see people with mental health disabilities that just have to sleep under the bridge. And I worked with a lot of those people in the when I worked in the clinics at the health department. So
yeah, and mental health is going to also become a big issue too, with people fallout from losing jobs. Divorces are going to be high. It's going to be a rough bit.
And same thing with child abuse and you know, battered women. They, you know, with them staying home during the pandemic, and the children are not being seen by other people at schools. I mean, the rates of child abuse are actually down, but they feel like that is artificial. It's just because the children are not being seen. And so I do want to encourage everyone, if you see a neighbor or a child that you have concerns about, go ahead and report it to Child Services, and so that they can be investigated, because children are really in trouble if they're in a home where they're not safe and there's nobody there to advocate for them.
Most definitely. It definitely makes an impact. And we're going to see a lot of that as fallouts from COVID-19. So we're going to need more and more people like Mary in the legislature. I want to implore people, when you get your ballot early, go down the list. I think some parties mail out like a pre-ballot, don't they? And they go, this is the people on the list, and they talk about legislative issues. I think most states have to do something like that, don't they?
Right.
And so...
and I do not have a primary, thankfully, so you won't get to vote for me until October 20th through the 30th is early voting, and then November 3rd, of course. The other things, talking about children, though, we're thinking about education. Education is going to be a really big issue with this coming year. As you know, the disruption of school. And the teachers have just done a tremendous job, really doing just a hero's work, trying to transition from teaching in a classroom to teaching online. And it must be just so difficult. My husband, my sister, my dad, my husband, and now my son are all teachers. And I've spent my whole life listening to teachers. Teachers work so hard. And with the children at home now, it's going to be an issue. There's a lot of children. A lot of children will be falling way behind, even with the best efforts of everybody. The teachers have been told that they can't really introduce new material when they're at home. That's not fair for the parents to have to introduce new material. They could only go over the material that they have already learned.
Wow.
And so the children who live in a home with good internet access and educated parents and parents with books and so on, they're going to do well. They will do well anyway, because children of upper class and educated, that they get private ballet lessons and soccer, and they go to museums and travel and have books. But when you think about, there's a huge percent of children that they have no books at all at home, and they may not have internet. They may have parents that work so much that, when I was working and had little kids, I could barely open their backpack to see what was in it at the night. So, but, if they don't have parents who can go through the algebra and explain it to them, they're going to fall through the cracks and really be far behind. And so when we open up school next year, my husband was just up at the school today, and they were looking at the new school session. If they're recommended to have reduced class sizes, that means they will have fewer children per teacher. They're going to need more funding rather than less. And I'm afraid with the economic downturn that the legislature is going to be required with this pandemic to slash the budgets, and we cannot afford to slash the education budget. We'll just have to do something else, because the children and teachers are already in such a terrible predicament with this. And if they're going to have reduced class sizes, and I'm going to fight for every single education dollar. I don't want them to slash the teachers' benefits that they just won in the last legislature. And they're going to need help. That we're going to need probably federal help to do this, But yeah, the schools have a really big job coming up.
They really do, and I think all of us are going to have a big job to do, and not only supporting each other in the community, but are getting our legislators to support us and get us stuff that can help us get through this virus and downturn. We're looking at several years of issues and going through downturns and unemployment, financial, divorces, one-parent families. I'm pretty sure the divorce rate, once we kind of get through this thing, is going to skyrocket. And it's just going to become more and more important. I mean, what COVID-19 has done is it has opened up the cracks in our society, even our infrastructure issues. Like you see those 2 dams in, I believe it was Michigan, that failed. I mean, we're really finding that we've been asleep at the wheel and been busy spending trillions of dollars in wars in other countries, which, that's an argument for another day. But certainly some of that money, some of it, maybe we should have been spending here. So anyway, I encourage everyone to check out Mary DaSilva. I get your ballots early or your data early. Google everyone. Go all the way down the ballot, because it's your local representatives that are going to help you. All politics are local. And, everyone gets concerned about what's going on at the federal level, the White House and stuff. That's important as well. But make sure that you support the local folks and everything else. What's your website, Mary, where people can look you up and check you out, either donate or volunteer to help you out? What and any help you need too. Like, let me know. Let the audience know if there's help you need.
Okay, sure. My website is DaSilva for Utah.org, and it's DA, not DE. It's a Portuguese last name, so it's DaSilva Utah.org.
Sounds good, guys. Go there, check it out, and support her. Support more women in politics. I'm very supportive in Utah, or in Las Vegas. We supported more women in politics. We have the largest legislature of women, and they are doing the most rocking, awesome things. They're supporting education, healthcare, children's care, daycare. It's just amazing, and what they're willing to invest in. Of course, they really see a future for their children in this world. So I encourage my audience to check her out and support her as well. Hopefully you can give her some support, volunteer help, or donate at her website. You can also go to thecvpn.com, the Chris Voss Podcast Network.com, and you can subscribe to all 9 of our podcasts. You can support the show as well. You'll see, if you're in our audio podcast audience listening to this, you can see the video with Mary on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Chris Voss. And we thank our audience for being with us. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.